Hi everybody and welcome to video number 37 in my EFT series, and today I decided it would be a good idea to do a video about stress and anxiety. So before I start, I would ask you to take responsibility for your own well-being, and also if you are tapping along, make sure your hands are washed. If you cannot guarantee that you are able to wash your hands, then avoid tapping on the face points. So the reason I decided to do a video about stress and anxiety is because under current circumstances, with the coronavirus pandemic, there is a lot of stress and anxiety, and I thought, let me do a video on that. Even though, if I think about it, any one of my previous 36 videos, whenever you tap, you are really reducing your stress and anxiety. And the reason why is because I will just try to explain it about our brains, how our brains work. So this is the lower part of our brain, which is the reptilian part, which is like responsible for things we are not even aware of, so it's like breathing. And then here you've got the middle part of the brain, which is called the limbic part, of which amygdala is the part. And that part is responsible with the fight and flight, and with the cortisol, stress hormone cortisol. So if we start to be stressed, then that part will start producing stress. The stress levels cortisol. And the top of our brain is the neocortex brain. That is the logical and rational part of the brain. And what happens is that when we get stressed, it a little bit like flips over, and brain stops going to that part of our brain, which is the logical and rational part. It's a bit like shut off. And so how we can help ourselves during the tapping? Well, calming messages are sent to the amygdala part of the brain, and then that enables, they like flip over back to the neocortex. The brain will start going back there. So if I give an example, people often say, oh, I can't see the wood from the trees, I can't think rationally, So yeah, we can tap on that. We can tap on anything, or, people could say, oh, I feel like my head is about to explode. So we can, at the beginning of the tapping, that's what we can do. So even though I'm feeling that my head is about to explode, and I've got all this anxiety, I love and accept myself anyway. Even though I can't see the wood from the trees, I feel so anxious. I love and accept myself anyway. Even though I cannot think straight, all this anxiety, I love and accept myself anyway. And then just tap on this anxiety, this anxiety, this anxiety. I can't see the wood from the trees. I just can't think straight. What is going on? I just can't make any rational decision. All this anxiety, all this anxious feeling. I just feel so stressed. My heart is racing. All this anxiety. All this anxiety. All this anxiety. Okay, so take a deep breath in. Notice where you are feeling this anxiety. Remember, if you watched my videos before, you would notice that if the feeling moves somewhere else, then you follow that. So for example, I've got butterflies in my stomach, and follow whereabouts you know, wherever, you know, is it still there? So I continue tapping on, got these butterflies in my stomach. These butterflies in my stomach. These butterflies in my stomach. Actually now all this kind of now moved to my chest. I feel this tightness in my chest. All this tightness in my chest. All this tightness in my chest. All this tightness in my chest. Now I feel the tightness is in my shoulders. So this tightness in my shoulders. All this tightness in my shoulders. And if you watched my videos before, I also always encourage you to feel the level, you know, how high is the feeling of anxiety, and keep watching that. So this tightness in my shoulders, and it feels like it's about number 5. So this tightness in my shoulders is number 5 tightness in my shoulders. This tightness in my shoulders. And this tightness in my shoulders. Okay, so if you take a deep breath in, tune in that feeling of your anxiety. Where is that in your body? Where is it in your body? Is that still the same level as when you started tapping? I mean, I could say that for me it went from 5 to perhaps about 3, and you know, I always encourage you to continue tapping, because in a way, if we are not able to express the way we are feeling, and we often repress, we don't want to, you know, be there with the anxiety. So if we aren't able to express it ourselves, the body will express it for us. So if you're targeting the areas, you know, whereabouts the anxiety is, then that connects to the amygdala part of the brain. And as I said to you, calming messages will be sent to the amygdala part of the brain that will, you know, make a switch from the fight and flight to back, helping you to connect with the logical and rational part of the brain, so that the blood starts flowing there again. And you know, if I explain it in another way, you know, all these kind of bits on anxiety, it's like you're walking with all these, like a monster. That's why I've drawn pictures of monsters, because it's like, you know, when you see a monster, you're like, ah, you know, and you're very anxious, and you're in the fight and flight. And as we are tapping, we are slowly starting to replace that with more helpful and positive responses. So I don't know if it'll be seen like that, but it'll be a bit like that. So as we are tapping, all these kind of scary monsters are there, and we tap 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 on them, and slowly they are kind of going away. We are releasing them. We are allowing our energy to flow. So they are all like disappearing, and instead more helpful and positive responses start coming up for us. So it works about that way. So you know, I would also encourage you to tune in to what are the feelings behind the anxiety, what are the emotions. And if any one of you watched my first video I made for children, there is a character called Fredy, and Fredy feels very anxious. He wants to make his puzzle, but because he feels so anxious, he feels kind of unable to do his puzzle. He feels like frozen. So I mean, also just as I'm tapping along, I just show you once more, these are actually the tapping points. So what Fredy did with the help of his tapping teddy, he was tapping on his feeling. So he felt frustrated. There, he felt frustrated. He felt frustrated. another feeling came up for him, which was stuck. So, feeling stuck. I'm feeling stuck. He felt good for nothing. So, good for nothing. I feel good, like I'm good for nothing. He felt not good enough. So back to the top of the head, not good enough. I'm not good enough. That's how he felt. He felt frozen. He felt frozen, and his arms couldn't move because he felt frozen, unable to do anything. So frozen. He felt frozen. Just frozen. He felt clumsy. 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 He felt unable. 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 He thought it was his fault. So, he's done all this tapping on it is my fault. And at the end, when we finished all that tapping, he was able to do the puzzle all by himself, didn't you, Fredy? So that was good. Which brings me to another question. People will often ask me, well, will I always, if I do this little bit of tapping, will we stop the anxiety in the future? And I'll give an example of Fredy. So I asked Fredy, or his tapping teddy asked him, well, where do you think this comes from? And we asked Fredy, who told you you are not good enough? And he started to think, and he remembered that his mom once was in a bad mood and she snapped at him. She didn't really mean it. He said, you're good for nothing. And Fredy started to adopt this belief. So that was one of the kind of starting points. Then, his dad, he might have been helping his dad one day, and again, Dad might have been impatient, and he said to me, come on, let me do it. You're good for nothing. You can't do it. You're useless. So that might have been another message that Fredy started having in his mind, thinking, oh, okay, even Dad thinks I'm not good enough. And on another occasion, he might have tried to say something out in the class, and his teacher might have put him down and humiliated him in front of other children. And so there might have been another kind of monster for Fredy. So he would be going with all these messages he would be kind of getting. There was this message from his mum, from his dad, and from his teacher that he is not good enough. So in EFT we work through the memories and we go back and clear those. And if he only worked with the message he was getting through with his mum, so say that one would have now been gone and would be now replaced with a more positive. But don't forget, there would still be the other monsters kind of, they would still be the one from his dad, the message from his dad, the message from his teacher. So he could again continue tapping on the messages, he was getting, on the beliefs that he had regarding not being good enough, the message he got from his dad. And again, once he's done that, okay, that would be cleared. And then, as I said, there would still be this message coming from the teacher. So that still would be kind of making him anxious, worried. And once he manages to, and you can see that monster seems to have a very sad heart. So Fredy could tap on his sadness. Where does he feel it in his body? And, continues through that sadness. There could also be grief, it could be all kinds of other emotions coming up. And as Fredy would continue to tap, then that sad heart would be replaced is a much happier one. And really, then Fredy, as he goes through life, should not really be feeling anxious at all. You know, I mean, various aspects of the same issue will pop up here and there, and he could do a little bit of tapping, but, you know, like, you know, I would particularly recommend that people do work with a practitioner or with a very supportive friend who can help them, because sometimes it's good to tap along, and these videos are great, but if you've got someone there, it can help you with the insight into your issues. And sometimes we don't want to acknowledge those issues, you know, we are pushing them away. So it's always good to have, you know, another friend there, you know, with you to help you. And you know, particularly during this pandemic, you know, there are so many people being triggered, you know, and they often say, well, we are being controlled, what can we do? And my answer to that would be, well, look inside of yourself, heal your own issues, because then you won't be triggered just because you are following the rules. For example, I'm just giving an example, that you're following the rules and that other people are not. And you know, another example, I can give you the example of the toilet paper. You know, people start hoarding toilet paper, you know, they think that is not enough, and people will say, well, where does this come from? And you know, somewhere there was somebody who, you know, even though the symptoms are not about diarrhea, you know, the main symptoms, but they're all different. And you know, some people, you know, can have, you know, gastrointestinal problems and stuff like that. And suddenly they start hoarding and buying toilet paper, right? And again, it comes from the, you know, because their logical brain was shut off. And other people then copy, and other people will think, oh, there won't be enough for me. You know, they start to be triggered in that way. And, you know, it then goes on that the whole world seems to have a big lack of toilet paper because people have been hoarding it. And, you know, as I said, it all goes back to the logical brain being switched off. And also, you know, when we are looking ourselves, you know, again, I often talk about this. I talk about, you know, we will be having healthy boundaries. So, you know, this is when our boundaries are not healthy. But if we look after ourselves and clear our issues, then we will, you know, take a step from another person, and perhaps we shall have a compassion for the other person, kind of thinking, well, you know, maybe I can help them, maybe, you know, and also leading forward, you know, when we are looking after ourselves, and, you know, we actually lead by example. And yeah, so that's something which, you know, I think I'm coming to the end of the video today. It was nice to have you with me, and thanks for watching, and look forward to you during my next video. Bye for now.